Hey everyone, it's Nick from Nick's Crossing, and welcome to Nick's Reviews, where I review O-scale and O-gauge, rolling stock, motive power, and accessories. And today we have another post-war engine, a beautiful model. I can't wait for you guys to see this. It is a 2025, as you can see on the box there, and the tender in the other box is a 2466WX. This was sold as a set, and I picked it up recently at a local antique shop that actually has a train shop in it. The train shop is Iron Horse Trains, located out of Hanover, Pennsylvania. So let's reveal this awesome, beautiful engine. Start with the one box. Yeah, you can only see the end of the tender. And yes, these are the original boxes, and I'm so glad to have these with this beautiful engine. And here's the grand reveal. Look at that. All right, so I brought her a little bit closer. It seems like my new light poles were getting in the way there. But just by looking at this engine, I think it is the finest post-war piece in my entire collection. But let's get to it. A little bit of history. The Pennsylvania Railroad's K4 462 Pacific, approximately 425 of these engines were built, starting in 1914, ending production in 1928. These engines were known to run all the way up until the diesel phasing in the mid to late 1950s. In my opinion, that's very, very impressive. These engines were known to be very reliable, and it was a great mid-sized engine to run passenger express and other passenger excursions across the Pennsylvania Railroad. In the mid to late 80s, this engine was actually named the locomotive of the state of Pennsylvania, so it's also pretty cool. Notice before I said the K4 was a 462, so the 027 post-war rendition from Lionel is only a 262. And yes, Lionel does classify this as a K4 Pacific. And one of the dead giveaways of a K4 is the squared up top here of your boiler, firebox at the end. All right, so now it's time to talk about all of the 6 different variations of this engine. Yes, there are 6 in total, which is kind of crazy. So let's get into it. So Lionel produced the first run of this engine from 1947 to 1949. The second batch was done in 1952 and only done in 1952. There are 5 variations of 47 through 49 and only 1 of 52. So variation A of this model we have here would have a rubber stamp 2025, rubber stamp Lionel lines on the tender, rubber stamp 2025 on the keystone up front. Now those, if you guys are new, those would actually wear off very easily, so Lionel stopped doing that. So variation B, they started doing a heat stamp or heat treated stamp, just like you guys see here. Also on the front, they did that as well. Variation C is what we have here on the tracks today. They stuck with the aluminum smokestack, a heat stamp on the front, a 2025 heat stamp as well. The difference between B and C variations is that on the front, they started going with a red keystone with gold lettering and trim, and this is numbered 5690. So that is the big determiner between A, B, and C. Variation D went with 2500 stamped on the front of the locomotive on the keystone. Everything else was about the same. They still stuck with the aluminum smokestack that's separately applied to the entire mold. This is when it gets complicated. So variation E is very similar to variation A, but they put a simulated front coupler up on the front catch, and then also they took away the aluminum stack. So they went to a one mold production piece without the separately applied aluminum stack. They also that year came out with a tender that had the coil decoupler in the rear of the tender. Mine actually has the coil decoupler. It's a really cool system. So that's interesting to know that I have a 1947 production engine with a 1948 tender. All right, so that brings us all the way to 1952's variation F. And that model is considered less desirable because of a couple of things, but if I ever found one, I'd probably pick it up. I'm not too worried about it. But anyways, the 1952 model, first off, would still be printed 5690 up on the hood. Secondly, they took away the Baldwin drivers, these nice flat driving wheels. They turned them into the normal basic spoked wheels. And that was mostly because of the war effort. The Korean War was going on, and they needed certain materials that could be basically used for magnetization and all that stuff. They took away the aluminum stack, and they put in a separately applied black painted stack that did not look as good. They also took away some of the detailing in the trailing truck and lead truck to make them just a stamped metal material, which is actually a very similar story to the 2026. but they almost have the same production years, so that makes some sense to me. For the tender, they still stuck with the elctro-coupler, and everything else on the tender was about the same. Alright, so let's talk about some of the visual features of this beautiful toy train. So up front, I have both lanterns there with the green gems. It's actually the first post-war engine that I own that has both of them intact or not missing any type of other gems, so that's pretty cool. We have the original headlight lens, that's a nice yellow color, really cool effect there. Classic Pennsylvania Keystone with the 5690 very lightly printed on there. And if we go back, we have the aluminum smokestack that's separately applied. And we have a nice handrail that goes all the way back to the cab, right next to this classic squared up firebox here that you see on the K4. Here is an ornamental bell. I believe this is your SAM dome. And back here is your steam dome. There is no whistle or ornamental whistle on this engine, so it's kind of interesting. Some of the other post-war engines I have a little ornamental whistle just sticking up. Great job hiding the E unit. You can barely see the tab that sticks up in here. So they kind of camoed that in. I think it looks great. We move back a little bit further. You can see all the cab detailing up here. And on the sides, we have the all these different articulating parts that I'll show you guys in a second. There's an air tank, a dual compressor, all the drains for the injector, and then even on the trailing truck they still kept that nice hot box detail. I love to see those. Also, they added all this extra riveting in here and up front, tons of riveting all over the place. Alright, so let's talk about some of the operating features of this engine. So first of all, we have an operating headlight up here with the classic yellow lens. Here is an operating smoke unit that someone did convert to a resistor style to take liquid smoke. Originally this engine would have taken the smoke pellets, but someone did the conversion many years ago. It actually had a clear plastic bowl cap rather than the newer ones, which are black. Here we have our 3-position E unit, forward, neutral, and reverse. Everything works. I'll actually show you guys that right now. There's forward, neutral, and reverse. And also the smoke unit puffs out with this little switch right here. It goes back and forth. If we go further back here, we have all these articulating parts that move with the engine. Check that out. And this engine does not waddle around like some of my other ones. This one is very nicely calibrated, and someone took very good care of this engine. All of these are original in here, and it does not have any denting or scratching that would throw off the timing of each side. If we go further back, we have a sprung trailing truck, and also I believe this is a sprung lead truck there. So that's pretty much all the features of this engine that are operating and also just cosmetic. And guys, we can't forget about that beautiful tender whistle that Lionel is known for, so check this out. So let's get this engine running and let's put her through some tests. Alright, so now I'm going to let her run around the garden a couple times and then we'll flip some switches and see how she does. Alright guys, so let's give her the infamous switch test. See if she can do it. Alright, look at that. Alright, so I sent her all the way down to the other side. Let's see if she can come back through the switch. Alright, so now I'm going to test if the anti-derail feature of the switches is activated by the engine. Yep, look at that. And see if it does it again around the other side. Yep. Alright, I'd say she is a smooth runner. So let's get some cars hooked up to her and run around the track a couple times. Alright everyone, so it's now time for the cars of the week. And yes, I did say cars, so today I'm presenting 3 cars instead of 1 car. And I gave Mr. Plymouth the night off. He was having issues pulling this set of cars. So I'm going to present one of my saddle tank engines. So here she comes out through the other side of the mountain tonight. She is presenting this awesome set of Pennsylvania cars. There she is. Look at that. What a beaut. And give a little horn here. Alright, I'm going to uncouple them the old-fashioned way. Alright. And I'm going to send her back to the mountain. I want to say goodbye. Alright, so special thanks to the Lionel Saddle Tech engine for stepping up and bringing out these cars for us tonight. So what we have in front of us is a set of 3 Pennsylvania heavyweight coaches. So let's get into some details here. They have all the riveting up top. I do like the little vents up top. I think that's really cool. We have 6-wheel trucks here, and we have a basically milled down center wheel, so these can handle smaller turns. We have, it says watch your step right here on each sides there. And the best part, I can hold these doors actually open, which I thought was a super cool touch with these. Same with this one down here. They are sprung and they're pretty heavy, so they don't flap around when the train's going. You also have the classic Pennsylvania Railroad keystone on each side. And also you have the Pennsylvania decal up top. Then each car has a location of the Pennsylvania Railroad. So you have Times Square. You can move this up a little bit. This one's City of Pittsburgh. And the last one, City of Chicago. One of my favorite features of this set of cars is that the last car actually has an LED sign with the Pennsylvania keystone in there. It does kind of fizz out because of the LEDs. You're seeing the refresh rate of the LED, but I think it's a nice touch. And these 3 cars came with a reissued GG1, I would say from the mid to late 2000s. It was made in China, but it's exactly the same way the post-war ones were made. It has 2 pull-more motors, a horn, but also has an electronic bell on the inside. That will be reviewed eventually on the channel, but these cars came with that set. All right, everyone, she's all filled up with smoke fluid, and I gave her a beautiful set of passenger cars, so all aboard. All right. All right, everyone, that's going to conclude my review of the Lionel Post-War 2025 K4 Pacific. I love this little train. It looks amazing with the set of Pennsylvania passenger cars, and it performs very well. I do think these cars are a little too heavy for her because this engine does not have magnet traction, so it does struggle around some turns and such, but it's beautiful. I'd actually love to find a set of maybe late 40s cars to go with this, and maybe even some template cars. I think would look really cool with this set. But anyways, if you guys are new to the channel, please consider subscribing and make sure you hit the bell for adventures, railroad videos, and content just like this. If you can, please give the video a like. It really helps out the channel, and I'd love to hear your guys' comments, so write a comment below. But thank you so much for joining me in this review of the 2025, and I hope to see you guys in future videos and reviews.